Hi, Shane.
Hello, mate. Thank you very much for your time. And I've got to say two things. This is what I sleep in because it's currently ten minutes to 6 in the morning. And two,
It looks sharp.
and two, thank you for making something completely different that's probably out of your wheelhouse. I loved it. It was really good. And your wife was even in it. How did you talk Beth to be in your film?
Well, it wasn't hard. I knew that she would do very well in this role. We knew it was going to be an independent production. This was done by my production company, and so anything like that, you knew it was going to be in your life for at least 5 years. And
Yeah.
I wanted Beth to be part of that. Luckily, she's a fantastic actor as well, and certainly was able to handle the role and the kind of performance shifts that happen in this movie as well. So it was a pleasure.
I'm happy to do spoilers in our chat too, just as a heads up. With the location, I loved the location because not just because of the isolation, but it was so beautiful. But that was like a false sense of security sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. That took a while. We shot in northern Idaho, in a beautiful area called Coolin, Idaho, Priest Lake, Idaho. And we had got that tower, Sundance Tower, a couple years before we started to shoot. We created a terrific relationship with the head of the land department there, and it was an incredible location to shoot at. My director of photography I'd known since I was a young age, and we had two visits there to kind of scope everything out and did our shot list and rewrites from there.
I always thought Ranger Dan wasn't quite right.
That was the idea. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
good casting. Other than Beth, like, how did you come up with those? There wasn't many, but there were some pivotal roles in there. Did you use friends? Did you put out a casting call?
I used friends. So luckily, everyone, all the cast members, all the major cast members, with the exception of Otto Asando, the great Otto Asando, who I had met only a couple of weeks before we started shooting. All
Yeah.
the others were friends of mine, old friends that I've known for at least 20 years. So this was helpful on a debut feature that needed patience and expertise and people really kind of getting behind you with their support. So it was great to write a movie like that, knowing that I had those types of resources. And Otto seamlessly just absolutely endeared himself to all of us and the whole chemistry of the cast.
Yeah, no, it was fantastic. What was it something that you've always wanted to do? A genre picture, or did it come out of the blue? How did you get your hands on this idea?
Yeah, so I've been a horror fan since I was about 13. It was well before comedy. And so for me, this was kind of a return to a childhood love that began around, 10 or 11 for me. And so I was reading Fangoria magazines and reading Stephen King and watching every
Yeah,
70s and 80s horror movie I can catch on cable. And so I knew I wanted to direct a horror movie. Outpost was unique in that I knew it was going to be a very low budget, and so production value was at the top of the list. And so I started thinking of places that would look amazing, forgetting about the logistics of shooting there
that's a
on a
good
mountain.
idea, though, right?
Yeah, and so I then kind of reverse engineered the story. What amazing, scary stories could happen in a setting like this? And a lot of the horror movies that I loved as a kid revolved around isolation or descents into madness. The obvious examples that Outpost was influenced by was The Shining and a movie called Repulsion. And
Yeah.
so that's kind of how it all came together.
Was there any idea of calling it something else, a different title? Because, I mean,
I know
I'm
there's
sure
there's
you know
many.
there are a lot of Outpost
Yeah.
movies.
I brainstormed. I really did, and Outpost kept sticking. In fact, I think there is another movie called The Outpost that has just been premiered in Venice this
Yeah.
year. So, I thought about it, and we ran. We were thinking about the tower and things like that, and it all just seemed so undescriptive. And because the title was with us for so long, I decided to just roll the dice and have this outpost, make a name for itself on its own. Yeah.
Idaho Outpost, maybe?
Out. Maybe. I mean, that might be too domestic. I don't know.
Yeah,
Idaho's a
that's
great
true.
place. You know.
How do you feel about this movie going global, like your UK, Australia, and just around the world? Your movie through streaming is going to be seen by a lot of different eyes.
I'm absolutely thrilled that I'm able to kind of show a part of me that most of the world is unfamiliar with, most of the world and the US are unfamiliar with. And so I'm very excited by Outpost. I think it covers a lot of territory. There's a lot of very controversial topics in there. I think it's a movie that's going to be divisive in many ways. People are either with the third act or not with the third act, and
Yeah.
I love kind of living in that world. I'd rather have a movie have someone give me a fist bump or a punch in the face rather than just a shrug and a meh. Like I'd rather get a strong reaction either way. So I'm very happy that globally the world will be able to see this. In particular, the UK and Australian audiences. We premiered in Fright Fest. It went over very well.
Yeah.
It's being received by reviewers over there very well, and in Australia very well. So I don't know. I think it actually may play better in those territories than the US, which has a lot more expensive, a lot flashier types of movies at the top of their list.
Yeah, well, it goes from
Yeah.
drinking wine with a beautiful scenery, some red wine, to
Yeah.
dancing zombies. Like,
That's right.
yeah,
That's right. All is not what you've seen, what you see. Exactly. It was difficult writing that twist. I mean,
yeah,
always I wanted people to identify with our hero, Kate. And that's why there's such a strong POV in the movie. That's why really everything is from her perspective. Is it happening or not? It can be very confusing, frustrating for some. But I think it helps really associate the audience with the terror of PTSD, which I think is a factor in real life for millions of people around the world,
yeah. You've
and
covered
certainly
that. Yeah.
one for our character as well. So a little tricky to write a twist like that, but hopefully some people will get a kick out of it.
I kind of saw that twist coming personally.
Many do.
Yeah,
Yeah. And many do. And also, I kind of wrote it that way. I was surprised when I get a response that people say they didn't see it coming,
right.
because part of me was making the movie knowing that people would get it, but kind of leaning in to the relationship of the character anyway, of the supporting character of Bertha, the hiker anyway.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah. It was a great side character, and if you kept a close eye, you kind of pick it, but still well
Absolutely.
done.
There's hints in there for sure.
Yeah.
All over that. Yeah, she's
Uh,
she's she's something else. Yeah.
Oh, she's a good actress too. I can't think of
Mm.
the name offhand, but she was in Girls as Lena
Becky
Dunham's mum.
Becky Ann Baker is in the movie. She's married to the character of Reggie, played by Dylan Baker, and she
Yeah,
is also married to him in real life. So besides Beth and I, we had another married couple on set, both of whom I've known for a long time, and they were terrific and are huge supporters of independent film, of student films, of
yeah.
fledgling actors and filmmakers. They love doing projects like this, and I couldn't have asked for a better couple.
Dylan Baker, as soon as I see him in any movie since Happiness, I'm like, uh-oh,
Yeah.
here we go.
He's well, it's funny you say that. I mean, I wanted to cast an actor whose kind of energy and disposition is one that is rather unstable, or you're not sure if they're good or bad. And I think Dylan plays those characters very well,
Yeah.
and worked it like a charm in Outpost.
And finally, really quickly, do you have a director's chair with your name on it?
I don't. I don't. I just had. I was up most of the time, pacing and walking around, and right in the scene with. There wasn't much sitting on on the set of Outpost. There was a lot of walking and climbing on Outpost. So and that was fine with me. We had a wonderful time, and there were
Yeah.
most importantly, no injuries up there at 6,300 feet.
Yeah, that was something I was thinking about. If anyone got injuries, that's a good call then.
None.
And finally, in your own words, Joe, why should people watch your movie? What is your aim that people are going to get out of your movie?
Well, I would hope that people would see that the movie is that there's more going on in the movie than meets the eye. And even for those that aren't traditional horror fans, I think there's certainly in the first two acts or something for them. But most of all, I hope people are scared by it. I hope they understand that there's that PTSD is also and mental illness is quite a serious issue. And I hope that this movie is able to kind of show that and still entertain at the same time.
Well, thank you, Joe. I want you to know I'm stand by the SAG and WGA. So I support.
I appreciate that, and thank you for mentioning that. As What's That Noise, our production company, stands by the WGA and SAG-AFTRA as well. Thank you for saying that, Shane, and thank you for having me on.
Thanks for your time, Joe.